We're going to make some orange beef as an hors d'oeuvre. This is going to be a highly seasoned item, and it's very simple with all these ingredients. We're going to cut up the beef into cubes, and don't use very lean beef because it just doesn't chew well even if it's tender, and it has to have some fat in it. And that's how it is. I'm using a piece of flat iron steak, which is to me really not good for steak, but it's good for this, for braising. We're going to use some sesame oil, orange marmalade, soy sauce, fresh ginger, fresh garlic, lime. We're going to toast the sesame seeds. We're going to use orange juice, chicken stock, red pepper flakes, salt, and we'll start. I'll dice it up, and we'll look at the size because it'll shrink just a little bit. So I cut up the ginger in big chunks. The garlic is fine. I cut the limes in half, and we're going to put everything into the pot, followed by the meat, and then the stock and the orange juice. Put the salt, the crushed red pepper, this, and next thing we do is cut up the meat. So we're going to cut it in cubes, but I'm going to cut one piece to be used as like an entree piece, which will be like so. That's plenty. Now, the cubes, don't forget they're going to shrink. So if you see that, how that is, and notice that it's a fatty piece of meat, so it's going to be tender and juicy later, not dried out like very lean bottom round or chuck. So we cut it up like this and we'll put it in there. I'm not searing the meat because I'm not looking to have any color in this dish. Now I'm using Tropicana, which wasn't my first preference. I'd much rather have the orange juice where those plastic containers are sitting on crushed ice. That freshly squeezed orange juice. More natural flavor. So we'll put the orange juice in there and the chicken stock. And all you have to do now is just let it simmer until the meat is tender. And then we're going to use some of this stock along with the orange marmalade to make the glaze. So bring it to a boil, cover it up, let it simmer. This will take over an hour. And then we'll proceed. And all of this seasonings are already in the liquid, which means they're going to penetrate in through the meat, not like just be on the outside coated. So the flavor will be a little stronger. While that's cooking, the sesame seeds have to be toasted. If you don't toast the sesame seeds that we're going to use later on, the taste is just not there. So we'll just toast this. The flavor is not there unless you toast the sesame seeds. Just put it in a skillet with a moderate flame, and you have to wait a little while. You don't have to stand and stir it constantly. You'll notice some of the pieces getting a little brown, and then that's the time to keep mixing and have something nearby, a plate, where you will pour this onto the plate once it's brown, because it'll just keep on darkening in this pan if you don't take it out right away. So that's probably the most difficult part of this whole process, is toasting the sesame seeds. Okay, so when they are golden brown, pour them onto a plate. Now if you notice, you'll see some browning. This is the point where you must constantly stir, or else you might wind up with some little black pieces. This won't take long. But when you're breading something with sesame seeds, you don't have to toast them because they'll be fried and they'll be toasted at that point. And that is good enough. Just shut the flame off. Mix it just a little bit more. This skillet is plenty hot and will stay hot for some time. And that's good, nice and toasted. Just pour it onto a plate. And we'll wait till later. This has simmered for an hour and a half, and the meat is just about tender. So what I'm going to do now is boil it rapidly for about the next 10 minutes to reduce this, because we're going to use this stock for part of the glaze, and I want it more concentrated. Now the meat is tender enough and the stock is reducing, so the fact that the meat is ready, remove it. And we're going to reduce this down even further. The more it reduces, the stronger it gets, and that's what I'm looking for. Because the coating that's going to be on this beef is going to be the orange marmalade and this stock, which is extremely flavorful at this point. And there's that one piece that can be used as a main course. Now just let that reduce even further. Now just as a reminder, as this is reducing, don't forget, we're not making a sauce to go on this meat. We're making a glaze. So we don't need a lot of this, but we need the flavor. The sugar that's in the orange marmalade will allow give a nice coating to the beef. Then we'll sprinkle those toasted sesame seeds, and you have a beautiful hors d'oeuvre that's very unusual, that people will question you about. But don't tell them how to make it. This has reduced down to 1 cup. So now I'm going to add 1 cup of the orange marmalade. And then I'm going to strain this. Why? Because I want the glaze to be smooth, not with the little pieces of orange in it. So we'll let that simmer for a few minutes. And you can give it a taste right now and get a little bit excited on the outcome. Boy, that is nice. Very good. So into the skillet, that I toasted the sesame seeds in, I'm going to strain this. As soon as it gets very hot, it'll go through the chinois, nice and easy. Good. So we'll take this. I'll do it right here. The flame is on. That's the point. I'm going to make a mess. Should have gone over to the sink because this will take a little pushing to get it through. And then just take a spoon and rub it. Then we're going to cook this glaze even more until it gets almost a little bit syrupy. Once it gets like that, when you put the meat in, it's going to adhere to the meat immediately. Then we could take the meat out and either roll it in the sesame seed or sprinkle it on top. It all depends on how much you want. For me, the more sesame seeds, the more tastier. Okay. Now we have something nice and smooth. And a little bit too thin, but that's no problem. Just raise the flame and let it cook for about 3-4 minutes, and then we'll look at it. It's been about 2 minutes now. At this point, notice what's happening. You don't want to have this turn into sugar caramelized. So we'll put the meat in there. And allow this meat to get really coated well. Use a high flame. We get a large plate now to put this on. So how do you know when to remove this from here? When you see that the meat is getting really shiny and coated well, and the glaze is not running off, it's time to remove it. So let this cook, and you can also go like that. See how it's thickening. This will take a few more minutes, not much longer. See how shiny it is? Okay. Just let it go. So you've seen how long it's been cooking like this right now. So I'll shut the film off and I'm going to go for another minute. Okay, now that is thick. Notice? That's what you're looking for. And that's why it's done. Before it turns to sugar. Shut it off. And now the last item I'm going to add to it is a tablespoon of sesame oil. Now the large piece, if you're going to use that to eat as a main course, you'd have to have a little more glaze on there, because, or maybe not. So now we remove the pieces. And then we're going to sprinkle them. You know, if it looks good, it's got to taste good. And this certainly does look good. So there's a little work involved here, but the finished product is so nice. Well, this piece we'll leave in there. I guess I'll be eating that for dinner. Now we take this and we can do it in a couple of different ways. You could take a toothpick. Well, let's just see here. We'll just take a piece and roll that in sesame seeds. Look how that sticks. So you do that to all the pieces. Like so. Just drop them in there. You don't have to touch anything. The sesame sticks so easily because of the coating on the beef. And now, I hope it's not too hot because I must have a piece. Very good. If you want to go lighter on the sesame seed, it's up to you. When you take these little pieces that you've made, heat them up after it's like this, heat them all up, put them on a platter, put a little bowl of toothpicks in the middle, and serve it as a hors d'oeuvre. And that's orange beef. I have to have some more. Enjoy. So that's it, all done. That made about 30 pieces, plus this larger piece because I already ate some. And that's it. All the sesame seeds were just about used up. And I like this. I've never made this item before, but it works well.